Hey there, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George Affleck.
And this is...
UnSpun.
Welcome to UnSpun,
Hello.
episode 5.
Is it?
Yeah.
Where's my cake?
You don't get a cake until episode 10, but
I'm on a diet. I don't.
Next week, Amanda and I have decided that we should maybe have some mimosas. UnSpun would be hilarious with a cocktail or two. Maybe you're enjoying
Or
a cocktail.
risky.
Very risky. Hey, we've got a lot to talk about
Yeah,
today.
another crazy week.
We should make note, though, at UnSpun Podcast on Twitter. You can follow us there, at George _Affleck. Right? It's a badge of honor now.
It's... Yeah.
At Jody Vance, it's Jody with a Y. We get lots of tweets, lots of replies, and some ideas. If you've got something that needs unspinning, you just send it off to us. And of course, you know you're listening to this on your favorite download.
That's right.
Or the
There's a whole
Orca.
bunch. Wherever the internet lets you download it.
We're free, people. And always read the Orca.ca.
Orca.ca, lots of great stuff there.
Let's dive in here. Lots of great stuff there that reflects upon some of these things that we're trying to unspin here. Always trying to give the George Affleck, seasoned professional politician, now retired,
That's
perspective. We are awaiting the response from the suspended, with pay, Sergeant at Arms.
We've been on standby.
Clerk. We have been. So give us a little bit of where we're at right now.
Well, we're waiting to see the response from the two people that are, being accused of this wrongdoing. So James and so the issue is we haven't got anything right now.
We don't. We have nothing right now. But we're waiting. What we are hearing is some noise about. At least I am. I'm getting a mean tweet here and there.
You?
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I kind of enjoy them now.
Oh, do you?
Oh yeah. Well, not
Glad
really.
for punishment.
Well, we're thick-skinned in this business because you do have a microphone and an opportunity to speak your mind or ask the question. And when Craig James and Gary Lentz were unceremoniously perp-walked out of the legislature, that shocked everybody, even the longtime veterans covering it, the ilk of Keith Baldry, who I had the opportunity to interview that week. Everybody was shocked because these two, as they said at the time, very well respected, non-elected, appointed,
We're dragged out the front door
Right.
to the exposed to the media.
and they look rattled and shamed and shocked and all this. And at the time, we didn't get a lot of answers from the person
And it was
who.
shocking. Yeah, it was so shocking. And we'd never seen this kind of thing before. Perp walks are generally done for people who are significant crime, like murderers.
danger
or
to society.
We want these people's faces to be known.
And Daryl Plecas, the speaker, did not explain to us what the
Back
alleged
then.
charges were at the time, and also did not tell us at the time that Gary Lentz and Craig James were given the opportunity to leave by the back
And
door.
they chose to go out the front door.
Why do you think that is?
I've been taking a lot of heat because I'm worried about the litigious nature of this whole thing from a civil point of view, and the decision for them to go out the front door seems to me that it exposes them for certain liability. That it gives them an opportunity maybe to go after the province for damages to their personal.
But can they, though, if
I
they
don't
refuse the back door? Because
I'm worried that they're not only going to get away if they did these things, and they will also make money off of the government. That's always been my concern, that this is might be a double whammy, that these alleged things that happen may not, even if they did happen, were within the bounds of what's allowed.
Right.
We've heard that from several people.
Let's just be clear for those who are catching up, because you and I are knee-deep and on the minutiae of this story, and there are a lot of people that are like, what's going on in the legislature again? So the allegations of misuse of expenses and travel and just the opulent lifestyle,
Machines
even
for cutting trees and chopping trees and
the wood splitter.
The wood
There's
splitter.
a wood splitter that our tax dollars paid
Yes.
for. It's weird. It's one of those things where you're like, wow, all of those expenses are not transparent because they're part of the executive branch. Now, MLAs, our elected officials, their expenses are published, right?
Yeah,
We can all look at
in
that.
real time, but after they've been paid
Right.
back their money that they were used or whatever, the expenses are. And as a counselor, every 3 months, my financial the money I spent was made public. That
Right.
was you signed off on a thing, and
So
the
accountability,
paper-
transparency.
Yeah.
Weird that didn't apply.
I don't think it's to the legislature, to the speaker, and it doesn't appear that. And I said this a couple of episodes, and I still haven't found it that this doesn't appear to be the case in any province. That this is the way they operate,
which is a problem.
Well, and if it does become transparent, and Wilkinson's list of things, and
Andrew Wilkinson, leader of the Liberal Party.
That's right. If we do have more transparency, we might be the leaders suddenly in the country.
Can you imagine the Wild West actually setting the bar of transparency?
Which Plecas was, to his credit, has been, that's his argument. This is not appropriate.
Right.
We need we shouldn't be spending taxpayer dollars on ridiculous things.
Here,
absolutely.
And that takes me back to the mean tweet that I just got yesterday. Basically saying, are you ready to give the mea culpa for protecting those 2 administrators who were suspended? Now that because Daryl Plecas wore that.
Alleged things,
and
yes.
And I was like, well, sure, I guess I could, but at the time I only knew what I knew, and my job is to talk about what I know for sure. And now that Daryl Plecas has stepped forward and shared the allegations, which I don't see any reason why all of what was shared more recently in January couldn't have been shared back in November. I'm not an expert on all of the details, but it looked to me like those weren't new. No. Some of them dated years ago. Yeah. So why couldn't we at least get some of that? And then we could all go, oh, yeah, good idea. We should do a forensic audit here. We should have the Auditor General take part, or maybe an independent. Then we can have that conversation. Or the fact simply that those 2 administrative, at the time respected administrators of our legislature were unceremoniously walked out the front door with police officers.
And now today is the day they're supposed to respond.
Right.
We have not heard anything. Obviously, we're all going to be intrigued in what that response would be, because I can't imagine if they are going to have excuses for this. It's going to be very difficult. So
might be a special edition of the UnSpun podcast.
So we'll be standing by, and I think everybody will know what happened. But I think we all have to look at this whole process as being quite broken from beginning to end. And there is nobody, I don't think, that is innocent in this situation, really. No matter what party you are, they all have to wear this in the legislature.
That's a really good point. And I feel you're absolutely bang on, because everybody kind of wants to point the finger at somebody else. But at the end of the day, even journalistically speaking, this is all happening on our watch. So we are now eyes open and on top of it, and we cannot let the news cycle spin us through it. But we do need to move on to our next topic, and this is one that I don't really know a lot about, but you were mentioning eyes peeled as many collective bargaining agreements are coming to.
Well, yeah, and we have a strike right now in Vancouver, our first strike in a long time, which is the people who work at the art gallery are striking. It's a various reasons, mostly related to having more secure jobs as opposed to this temporary situation that they're in, this specific union. But this year, end of 2019, is almost all the collective agreements, not only in Vancouver, everywhere, the entire region, come due. And
all of them?
Pretty much. And it's
like nurses and teachers?
That's right. So they all start bargaining. They've already probably started bargaining. The challenge, and this happened in the last iteration of this a few years ago, one community, and I think it was New West, I think Delta as well. I think the Delta firefighters and I think New West CUPE, they got the first agreement, and it was really generous. And so if any community goes first out of the gate and they're overly generous, pretty much every other town is kind of screwed.
Right.
You kind of have to, well, they got it, we get it, so we should get it, 2%, 1%, whatever.
And should it work that way? In your experience of sitting in City Hall and watching these sorts of things be battled out, I guess is the best way to put it, because it is somebody's livelihood. From a union perspective, you pay your union dues for somebody to fight for the best deal possible, but if the best deal possible is going to melt the rest of the budget, I mean, how do you structure and look at can't pay the teachers and not the nurses?
Exactly. But if you, as a city, any one of these cities, they're all kind of quite often fighting for each other's best staff. They're trying to steal people away from each other, especially in say permits and all these places where they have people with experience, because they all have the same pension plan, or the municipal pension plan. Right. So they get to keep their pension no matter where they move. And so if one community may be more generous than another, you have this situation where you might start losing good people. And so it's just not a good place to start a negotiation. And there's an argument, and there was a time where they all kind of got together, and it was a regional decision, and that kind of went out.
Did that make more sense?
I guess it depends on where you sit. I mean, I think that some bigger communities would say the staff there would say, no, we want a deal. We live in this town. We want to have our own deal. And obviously, as it turned out last time, it worked out quite well for the unions because they got a fairly generous deal, and that was then extended in pretty much every city in every municipality.
Those raises that you talk about, though, ultimately we as taxpayers pay for that. So how is that going to?
Yeah, you have to build those into a budget. So I think the last one was 2, 2, and 2, or 2. There was no zeros in there in Vancouver, if I recall. So 2% increases, and given the rate of inflation right now is around 3%, they might be going for that. And so 3% in Vancouver, where your staff costs are $600 million, almost a half of the budget or a third of the budget is staffing. 2% is a big chunk of extra cash that you need to get from taxes.
How's this for Kennedy Stewart? New mayor.
Yeah, well, I think
if he's a longtime politician,
it might
so
be easier for him because the NDP are quite tight with the unions. If it had been an NPA mayor, I think that you would have seen a strike, as we did with Sam Sullivan. So hopefully, but it's a mixed council. The way it works generally is the staff, the human resources person, negotiates the deal with the union. They come to council in camera and present the deal. You make a decision. So when there was that thing called Sam strike, it doesn't really operate like that. You don't sit there. You get the deal presented to you, and you as a council say yes or no to that, to the offer. And if you don't like it, they go back, and you really, it's up to the council as a whole has to vote on any deal that the staff negotiate with the unions. There's no politician sitting in a room negotiating.
There you go. There's a lot there I didn't know. And perhaps you're listening right now going, I have no idea what in-camera means. Can you explain
that's
that?
one of the meetings that happen but after that are not public, and so you have private meetings.
Which seems backwards.
Yeah, I know. They're usually related to real estate or legal stuff that they're so sensitive. They become public eventually.
Right.
They just can't be public in real time because of legal challenges, which goes back to what we were talking earlier and what happened in Victoria and all that.
And also leads to what I want to talk about, because Kennedy Stewart, empty homes tax. We've learned some numbers when it comes to...
Yes, the $10 million tax cost to the taxpayers. We earned $30 million last year, they say. They haven't collected all that money yet. They're saying it's a big success. They say it's gotten more units into the rental stock.
Yeah.
But I always question this tax. I said, what is the goal here? To make money or to get units into the rental stock? Because I never believed that people who had these empty homes, which was really about 4% of the homes, and 90% of those 4% were in the downtown and core in towers, and 90% of the ones that were in Cole Harbour. So majority of these empty homes in the city are actually centralized in Cole Harbour for whatever reason. So after now 2 years, the numbers go declining. Overall, there's less empty homes, so they've gone down by 15%. The interesting data point in the past year that once it was uncovered after all the hoopla yesterday about this is a great success, we've got more.
There were press releases.
We've got more units into the rental market. It actually turns out to be only 86.
86
units. So
not 8,600. No, not 86,000. 80.
A $10 million investment. With $30 million in revenue, so a net.
And 86 units that are probably $5,000 a month, so not really helping the average Joe out much.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm speculating.
We don't know where those units were, but yeah.
I'm speculating on the empty house.
So that's $100,000 cost per unit to get back into the rental market. The cost of building a unit probably is around $200,000. So we could have built 86 units for the same amount of money. Probably.
No kidding.
So
I wanted to share with you. No,
I got her phone out.
I have my phone out.
I got somebody else I want to talk to.
Relax, George Affleck. This is why I've got my phone out. And if you're listening to the podcast, I will explain. But this I'm showing to camera is how long it took me to fill out my speculation tax.
What's the number on there?
The number is 3
hours and 24 minutes.
3 minutes, 24 seconds.
Wow.
Almost 3 minutes and 25 seconds. And I'm going to tell you,
type
George,
with all fingers.
I didn't even open up my laptop.
Oh.
I started the timer. I opened the laptop. I looked at the page that I got today that had all the codes and stuff, and I actually read the directions and went off the page to what the website was. All in 3 minutes 25 seconds.
But you're internet savvy.
I'm not. I couldn't print a bank statement earlier today, but I did the speculation.
Okay,
so the brouhaha over actually filling it out.
So the Orwellian nightmare, which it is, it only takes 3 minutes to.
It only takes 3 minutes to fill
it. So.
And I'm gonna. You know what? This might be. I know there are a lot of people that hate the speculation tax, and I just feel as a citizen I have to fill it out because I don't want to pay it. So I'm looking at it, and Patrick and I, one of our producers, I was saying that I really looked closely at the questions. And some of them I'm like, yes, you should be asking that question. Did I declare at least...
Which one in particular?
Did I declare at least 50% of my income?
That's because I haven't received this thing yet, so I'm a little worried that I maybe
you're gonna
off
like
a
it.
list.
No, you're gonna.
Okay,
You're
so
gonna
the question
get it.
was...
Did you declare at least 50% of your total income and pay taxes to Revenue Canada on that amount? Yes.
So that means, are you a foreigner or not a foreigner? What does that mean?
No, it means, do I invest in and pay taxes? Because I actually have legal alien status in the United States. And for
So
2
you're
years,
an alien.
I'm an alien. You're just
I
getting
knew
that
it.
now?
I knew it.
Now, I'm a Canadian citizen, but I can work and live. I have a card that allows me to work in the United States. So I lived down there for almost 2 years. And when you pay taxes down there, you can bring those taxes here and say, I've paid taxes down there, therefore, how much do I owe up here? And oftentimes twice. I was told, you don't really owe anything up here because everything's down there. When I returned to Canada, I started filing my taxes. But you have to still file. It's just, what do you declare? Because you didn't make it in Canadian dollars and you did pay taxes. So
by declaring this is
I
a
just
good
feel
thing
good
in what way? How is that good for
that
us?
if I'm on the ownership of a $5 million house and I have zero income and I pay zero income tax, that's suspicious. That might be a speculator. And I don't care where you're from. I don't care whether you're from San Francisco or London.
But I don't think there's a relation. I don't know what the rules are with Revenue Canada and how much access the province has to that information.
Maybe they have done, but I'm just telling you, I feel good filling that one out. No. You have to actually say everything on this is true. And they did ask for my email address, and they did ask me to re-enter my email address. And Jordan Bateman wrote an article at the Orca.
I'm with him on this one.
Tell us about it.
Well, they ask for your email address, and I don't really understand. And I put this out on Twitter, and people say, "Oh, well, what do you think the government's going to use this information?" And hey, I believe in good government, and that they would never do that. But the first question is why? Why do you need this information? Why? Because you can fill out a form online, and it'll just come up with a screen thing. Thank you for filling out this form. You've done it, and you can print this form. There's no need.
Well, that's how I submitted it. I didn't email it to them.
What's the email for? I don't know what it's for.
But it had my phone number, my address, and my social insurance number. Like it had all the really important, pertinent stuff.
Yeah, that stuff is. They already have that information. Email,
but I could have given them a Gmail address.
You could have, but most people won't. And the thing is that if you my other hat, I have a marketing hat that I wear, and you could email data mining and email specifically is very, very valuable. You can
Curve Communications, by the way, George and Amanda.
Brought to you by Curve Communications.
It is sponsored by Curve.
That's right. So you can insert all these email addresses into Facebook, for example, and Jordan brought this up, and then you can actually mine Facebook and really target market. So you can serve ads specifically to people for whatever agenda you might have. I'm not saying the province is going to do this, but it's certainly possible that the department in charge of communications could take and push whatever message they want to people specifically.
You could get a different ad on your Facebook than I would get on mine.
I would be, if I was, say, left wing and you were right wing, you would be served a different ad.
Hush your mouth on me being right wing.
Yes, or these centrist, or these areas where there's
radical
a swing,
centrist.
The swing ridings. If you're trying to influence the election in any way to get the residents of that town to swing one way or the other, and you can target them. We saw what happened in the States with Russia and attacking and all that stuff.
Cambridge Analytica comes to mind, right?
This is very, very important information to have, is people's emails and how you can use this to market and control.
Great. Now I don't feel so great about the speculation tax form that only took me 3 minutes and 25 seconds.
I just think the government needs to answer the question of why do you need emails? Why do you need these?
I love the article by Jordan Bateman, by the way. The Orca.ca is where you can find that. Oh, can I tell you about my column this week, the middle? There's no middle.
All right.
There's no middle in my middle. Not this week.
Confusing.
I was super mad.
Oh, I know. Yes. This one. Okay, go.
Basically, the punctuation is vaccinate your children. Like, vaccinate them. It's second only to potable water. Vaccinations have saved more lives.
There is, as we know. I agree, and it's a very touchy issue. Obviously, there's a lot of people.
You see my email inbox.
Yeah, and
they're mad. They're cutting and pasting into YouTube videos, and with all due respect, former TV producers versus my scientist, who's a vaccine researcher, pediatrician, and has an adult daughter with autism and just wrote a book about how vaccines did not give Rachel autism.
Right.
He is like the dean at Baylor. He's Yale trained. And I have people saying, how dare you quote him? I'm like, because I dare.
Specifically, there's calls to say don't go to these certain places in Washington State.
Yeah.
And don't go to the doctor in those areas.
There are 47
there
cases there right now.
This is of measles, mumps.
Measles. 47 cases of the measles in Washington State. 37 of those are due to unvaccinated children, and the children are between the ages of 1 and 10.
So read
read my column and give me the feedback, even if you want to just fill my inbox with anti-vax YouTube videos. It's very odd. Anyways, I'm very passionate about that.
Yes.
My child is vaccinated, so I don't,
I just say what my doctor just says, do this to your kid, and I go, okay,
Yes.
inject. Begin. Of course, my youngest kid loves needles. No, he doesn't. He hates needles. It's
Well,
the
that's
worst
weird.
nightmare dealing with needles with him.
But he makes it through.
I don't.
Do you want to know what
But
my
his
worst
mom
nightmare?
doesn't.
My worst nightmare is ICBC. We all got to do it.
It's like that's a good transition. Needles to ICBC, like poking my
Sticking
eyes.
needles in my eyes. New news in today about ICBC.
$1.1 billion loss
Is
they're
the
expecting.
projected. Yeah, we're what, 860 million in 9 months. David Eby, though, he says it's unacceptable.
Okay, so is it time to privatize? I had a lunch with an old buddy of mine yesterday, and we talked. And he hasn't had an accident in 20 years, and you don't. Our insurance for me was like $2,400 or whatever for my minivan.
Same with my
Prius.
Prius.
There's no real reward to being a good driver, especially as it gets more and more expensive. Generally, in the private sector, they try to make insurance attractive to people who don't cost them much money, and they punish the people that cost them money. And that's generally the way it works. In this case, they're kind of spreading the pain to all of us who are driving very carefully.
So now I've got a friend of mine who lives in Ontario, where there's private insurance.
Mm-hmm.
She had a fender bender, like in the shopping mall parking lot, but it counts. And she was at fault, and she could not find an insurer.
After
that, because it was, you are an at-risk driver, you've had an accident. She literally had to go and pay a huge premium.
Can't we have a two-tier though? Have a social,
I hope so.
Socialistic system like ICBC as the backup, but then let the private sector reward me and take my insurance and let me pay $200 a year instead of $2,000 for being a good driver.
Yeah.
And if I have an accident, and then they say, "Sorry, buddy, you had an accident," go talk to the government and see what, and then you have to pay $10,000. Or just don't drive anymore. And certainly getting the terrible, terrible drivers off the roads, this is a very good solution, I think.
Yeah.
If my insurance is $30,000 a year because I'm a terrible driver, I probably shouldn't be on the road. Get off the road. Get out of my way, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive my car in a straight line on the right side of the road without an accident if I can avoid it.
For less than $30,000 a year, because it is getting outrageous. Do you think that's at the root of what's costing so much at ICBC though? Like is it the bad drivers, or is it the fact that we are per capita the ground zero for luxury cars, many of them with N stickers on them? And then one bump of your Tesla, not yours, not mine, but the Tesla.
No, I
you have
got
to replace
my 2003 Dodge Sienna.
I have a 2016 Prius and it's
Toyota
fabulous.
Sienna. Oh yes.
Yes, I love my Prius.
I got my dad van.
But
Sweet
one
ride.
tap on the back end of your Tesla, the whole car needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
Because of the sensors and.
But I think the data they're saying is, I thought it was all related to dumpster fires. There's a whole bunch of dumpster fires that cost. What is that? No,
All right.
they're saying.
Do you want to know what's a dumpster fire, George?
It's related to.
Casinos.
Oh, we're moving to casinos.
Not all casinos, but money. Yeah, let's talk about money laundering.
It's gambling, really, because that's what insurance is.
But it's
Let's
not
face
every
it.
casino.
Insurance is a kind of gamble.
True.
It is.
But River Rock seems to be ground zero for what's going on now. And what we're hearing, Sam Cooper, who's a national treasure, may I say, global investigative journalist. I love this man, and I loved him when he was local here, and they were right to take him to Toronto and make him a national reporter, and that he's still as aware and focused here. He FOIs.
He always loved television, too. I know he used to say that to me.
Did he? I was going to say, no, he doesn't. He's like, I hate this. But he's so smart. And you know what? His Freedom of Information asks are in the thousands.
Yeah.
And he gets, how is it that our judicial and policing
I'm not sure if he has
systems,
a partner, by the way. I'm not sure he is.
But how?
All those
Stop
FOIs,
it.
he must just be buried,
He's
literally.
super buried. But why are government officials and law enforcement not able to do what Sam Cooper can do?
It is shocking. I mean, thank God for good journalism, first of all. Kudos to all the great journalists out there, and let's keep them employed. Total respect. But yeah, no, it draws attention to, well, at the beginning of our conversation and what was going on in the legislature.
Yeah.
And these are things that shouldn't be happening, and should we be relying on journalists to uncover this, or politicians who we at first believed that they were just angry about being, kicked out of a party, and we were, how do we improve all of this stuff, and now we have
journalists
this
are the
gambling,
key.
and whether we should have into the money laundering, it's like
that's why we need to support journalism. And I know it sounds rich with a journalist sitting here saying, I've worked in newsrooms for 30 years. Many of those, as a sports broadcaster, watching the news people do their thing, and those newsrooms are emaciated now. Like, it's drilled down to almost nothing because of the lack of dollars or the change in the industry, and people are like, I don't watch the news anymore. It's like, if you don't watch the news, these stories aren't uncovered. And all of what we're talking about today would happen, and we would be none the wiser, and it would continue to happen, and it's like somebody's got their hand in our pocket.
Yeah, well, the evolution of how journalism will be paid for is we're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find a solution for that, and I believe good quality journalism leads to people watching, reading, and therefore the revenue's there to pay for that. As long as CBC doesn't steal all the money and into their paid $1 billion budget. But the fact that he's doing this work and what is going to happen now with this whole issue, there's a demand. Polling, it's 80% of people want a commission on this. And
nobody's even lost their jobs with with what are we, $2 billion with a B?
Heads will have to roll, don't you think?
But
somewhere.
shouldn't they already have rolled?
Well, we don't know where things are in this investigation.
BCLC.
Yeah, I mean, you would assume that there would have been some people let go.
Was it the Globe and Mail today? It was the Globe and Mail today, right? That had a story of the whistleblowers. It was yesterday, Globe and Mail.
Right,
today's the big argument is, now it's behind a paywall. It's like, yes, you're going to need to pay $1 to read that, for the love of God.
Yeah.
But they were talking about how there are whistleblowers now prepared to put their names out there in the public who are saying they were fired from the BC Lottery Corporation for saying money laundering is happening and you guys are ignoring it. Like, even at those allegations, nothing's proven, right? Nothing's proven. Don't you at least find that person or that group of people?
I can only assume that this is happening, and the ministry responsible will have to be doing something about this. And this is another big cash cow, the BC Lottery Corporation for the province, much like ICBC used to be, and Hydro used to be.
Right, they just taken some cash.
So these crown corporations are in trouble in how they are operated, and all of them are need a lens put on them that they've never had before.
Because there is trickle down that this does land in government coffers, right? Like that
goes into revenue.
Yeah.
All this money or it takes away from the revenue in the case of ICBC.
When you shut it down. Right.
Yeah.
We don't even get to Jody Wilson-Raybould and Justin Trudeau in this one, because you know what?
It's happening now. Another happening now. But yeah, this whole issue of whether or not there was a conversation about pushing aside the SNC-Lavalin deal.
We will keep you posted on that evolving story as we get to the next edition of Unspun. But we got to wrap up this one. But we want your feedback at Unspun Podcast. You're on Twitter, of course.
George_Affleck.
I just like the way he says underscore.
I know.
At Jody Vance. And also, you can read us at theorca.ca. That's maybe where you clicked on and listening to the podcast. Or you can download from anywhere you get your podcasts, right?
You can, yep. There's a whole bunch of places you can go. Just search the Orca Media, I think is how it's found on any of the search engines for podcasts.
The Orca Media.
And you can sit there and drive your car, listen to us talk about ICBC and just get enraged.
Just use that turn signal and don't run into anybody.
Stay in the right lane as I pass you in the left, please.
That's right. For George, I'm Jody. That's it for this week.
Thanks.